Hey everybody, welcome to the Efed podcast. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Sorry about you seeing us the whole time where we thought you couldn't. So,
Hey,
I'm
welcome.
Mikey Unlikely, and we're here on the Efed podcast. Excited to invite our guest. We've got Travis on the show. Travis ran the WGWF for 10 years, and we're going to get into that.
Damn.
And he's been a part of the XWF on and off for many, many years. He is Chronic Chris Page. You know him well from the XWF. You know him well from his EFED podcast, Fireside Chat with Chronic Chris Page.
Ooh.
And you can find him on Twitter at Chronic CP, at Fireside Page for the podcast, and at XWF 1999 is where he feds. So, Travis, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on. I'll be remiss if I don't mention my producer and co-host, Brian. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. First and foremost, I gotta say we might have a little bit of gimmick infringement going on here. Chris has Chris's sans sleeve.
Sand sleeves, and I'm rocking the sleeves tonight. So, Chris, welcome to the show. I'm excited to.
Sun's out, guns out. Isn't that what was said off there? There
That's
you
right.
go.
We'll show. We'll shed the spotlight on to our boy Travis here.
There's,
Travis, welcome in.
Oh man,
there's only room for one set of arms out tonight.
appreciate that, guys. It's good to be here. It's good to be talking to you guys tonight. I'm glad to be on.
Well, we're excited to talk to you. We got so much to talk about. We've got your EFED career. We've got the podcast. We've got the top 100, which of course, Mister Number, what is it, 22?
22 with a bullet.
22, Mister 22, Chris Page. So he's been a big name for the past year, and we're going to talk about all that. But first, we're going to get into the beginning. Travis, when did you become a fan of pro wrestling?
Oh, dude, you got to go back to like '84. It was like 3. I can remember sitting down with my grandmother, who at that time was like let me 84, 85 was when I can remember watching wrestling, but my first fondest memory was 90, 89, 90. Sting was a big deal, and I was watching with my grandmother on Saturday morning, and I'd never seen her act or go fucking ape shit over one particular person ever. Like I never saw it before. And Sting came out on television, and she started screaming and yelling. And at that point, I looked at my dad, and I was like, "Is she okay? What's going on here?" And it started to register then. I was like 6. And then I fell in love with it up until about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I just, tuned out of WWF and all that stuff. But yeah, like I'm an 80s guy. Give me some old Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express all day, every day, brother. Give me some Cornette.
Hey.
Give me some Paulie Dangerously. Southern wrestling. I'm from Alabama originally. I'm in Florida now, but I grew up on the South. Like in the '90s, Monday Night Wars were going on. I was like 14 years old. I was watching Smoky Mountain. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like,
Yeah, right.
Raw's going on at the Manhattan Center, buddy. I'm watching Smoky Mountain wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of shit that I grew up on.
Bullet Bob is laying down the law in Smoky Mountain.
You're damn right he was, man. He was throwing down, and you got to think too. Now, growing up in the '80s, being like a young kid, still had wrestling at the Boutwell Auditorium in Birmingham, Alabama, and that was a thing in the '70s into the early '80s, and it died out into the late '80s into the early '90s. But Bullet Bob Armstrong would still run the Boutwell Auditorium, so my dad would take me down there, like we wouldn't go every week by every means, but like every 2 or 3 months we'd go down and I'd see Bullet Bob take on like Dick Slater or some shit. It's just indie wrestling, but it was still a thing.
Yeah, 100%. So you're a big fan and you're watching local wrestling, which is awesome. It's different from what most people would do. Everybody comes on here and they're either WCW or WWF, and there's an occasional difference. And that's what I like about talking to different people. You're talking about indie wrestling and growing up on it and going to shows. It's so easy to become a fan at that age when you're there live and you see it and it's bigger than life.
No doubt. And of course, the arenas themselves, like especially where I grew up, smaller.
Yeah.
Aren't it was Birmingham was always a secondary market. So even Boutwell Auditorium is like a small 2,000, 2,500 arena. If you have, as a kid, you're going into Boutwell and say half of that's full.
Yeah.
This is a big fucking deal, and it's really not. It's just like it's a. But as a kid, your eyes get real big, like holy shit.
I've never seen this many people before.
No doubt. And then of course, as you grow up, and back in the day, this is a story. Uh, I was 16, 17. I forged my dad's name to start wrestling school through an indie company in Birmingham. I was still in high school. I went through training. One of my first shows, and I didn't do many, but one of my first shows, I was so stoked. I was so excited. It was at a bar and nightclub. Bell time. I'm in the opening match. I'm a referee. I'm not even like a wrestler. Like, I'm a referee taking a bump in this match. Walk out, 6 people.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah.
I'll tell you, it was the easiest $25 I ever made in my life.
Oh,
Let me
man.
tell you.
That guy lost money that night.
Oh, no doubt. That
Yeah.
was right to the bar.
So, growing up, give us your Mount Rushmore. Well, hold on. Let me before we get there. What? We'll get there, Brian. What?
We will.
We will. Do you watch wrestling today? Did you watch it since then? Did you continue to? When did that either stop or what's going on with your fandom these days?
I mean, I watch a little bit here and there. I catch what I want to catch. I'll watch AEW if there's something on that I want to see. And same thing with WWE. Like we'll call a spade, their WrestleMania Backlash show. I literally tuned in to watch one match, and that was the Cody Rhodes Seth Rollins rematch. That was it. That's all I wanted to see on the show, and it started the show, so I didn't have to watch the rest of it. I saw what I wanted to see, and I moved. I moved on from it.
It works.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I am. I
You're just spotty. You pick your spots right now.
yeah, and I really think some of the better stuff on TV. Well, it's not even on American soil right now. I think some of the best stuff going on is in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fact. And unfortunately, like not enough eyes are on it. And I'm not saying I even follow that product 100%, but there's more going on over there than I'm more invested in than right now, in the U.S. But I mean, things can change. Like we know, professional wrestling, it can literally change on the drop of a dime, just as much as it can in Efeding. Like it's all so topsy turvy. Look at what happened literally yesterday with Sasha Banks and Naomi
Yeah.
walking out of Monday Night Raw. Basically leaving their championships on Johnny Laurinaitis' desk and saying thank you, fuck you, bye. That's or back in the 80s, that's not going to work for me, brother.
Yeah.
They stood their ground. Like shit like that can happen, and it changes the whole dynamic, changes the whole game.
Okay, so you're still spot watching wrestling, and rightfully so. That's what I do these days. What is your Mount Rushmore of wrestling overall? Give me your top 4 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Well, Flair's on it, number one. Well, one of them was.
Woo!
Yeah, definitely. Again, 80s mark. Um, I think this may be controversial, but I think Jake Roberts is on that list. With this psychological style and the way that he could handle a crowd, I think that was second to none.
He was terrific in the late '80s, early '90s.
No doubt.
I went back and watched wrestling when I first got into it, and Jake Roberts stood out like crazy.
No doubt. And like it or not, I think Kurt Hennig's on that list for me. As far as professional wrestling is concerned and wrestling in general, I think that he was phenomenal. And
He was perfect.
No doubt. And another guy that I don't really think gets a lot of credit is Rick Rude.
There you go. Good answer. I like that one too.
I mean,
It's a very, very '80s Mount Rushmore, and I absolutely love that.
I think they paved the way for what's happened today. Now, don't get me wrong; there are obviously bigger stars out there today. With Shawn Michaels, you got obviously Steve Austin. You've got The Rock. You've got even Roman Reigns to this day, and there's a lot of good talent out there. But where would these guys be if you didn't have where it came from?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You could even go back further and say Nick Bockwinkel and Larry Zbyszko and guys like that. Like it's just it all tracks.
You don't gotta sell me, brother. I literally run a Fed based on what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I
So
think
you get it.
I think we can all agree that if none of those guys ever existed, Shawn Michaels would have invented pro wrestling.
Ryan, stop. You shouldn't have never said the name. That's his guy.
Shawn Michaels is a good word. He's a worker. He's a worker. Kurt Angle, another one. He's a worker. Just Eddie Guerrero. These guys are all talented, and they all have their all rightful spot.
Some more than others.
For sure.
Uh,
Shawn Michaels is on that lower list, the lower end of that
Whoa,
list.
all right.
Just
Folks, we're
kidding.
experiencing technical difficulties. We've lost audio and camera from Chris.
all right, so let's talk about how you found e-wrestling. How did you stumble on this weird world?
That's a story too. So I started back in email days, and I was a junior in high school. One of my best friends, I had our cliques. So I was rolling with a couple of guys, and one of them was running an Efed, and he didn't tell nobody. He just kind of kept it secret. We all watched wrestling. This was right at the very start of the Monday Night Wars. We're going back to like 95, 96, into early 97. And finally, and he had been running this email fed for like a year. And me and my boy Justin we were all in class one day, an elective class. It was, I forget what it was. It was some kind of not architectural class, but some kind of botany class or some bullshit electives. So literally, we're dicking around in the back of the class, and boy David, like, he let it slip. Justin, like, what are you working on? And he was like writing something down. He's like, oh, I'm going for this fed. Right? That's where it started. And he like kind of clued us in and smartened us up on what he was doing. And we were like, what is this? So he gave us the link. It was to a very basic board where, you submitted your role plays via email, and he sent them out to you. He sent them out to the entire Fed in packets. Now, we were terrible. This is back when 6 paragraphs was looked at as fucking phenomenal. Like, it was the be all end all. We were not real wrestling based. It was all you created
Created a character. Okay.
Which is where the Zen Master is born.
Zen Master, is that your first character?
That was the very first failure of a character that I created. And,
well, hold on. Before you go any further, the Zen Master. What's the gimmick? What's the character? What's the deal?
I mean, I think
Okay.
I think it's in the name.
It's not. It's a little different. So instead of
Swerve, bro.
instead of Zen, his name was spelled Zin, and instead of being the epitome of Zen, which is the center and being center, he thrived on chaos. And it had legs. I just couldn't develop the character and couldn't develop it right. And
So can you bring him back today?
fuck no. Fuck no. I mean,
The Efed podcast is sponsored by classic-wrestling.com.
I mean, there's no way. There's just no way. I mean, well, let me think about that. Maybe. Maybe.
So, okay, he said he's got legs. What is it about?
Hmm.
How were your role plays, and what were you trying to convey?
They were terrible, and I was just trying to, it was all cookie cutter and so generic. Me and Justin teamed up. He created this character, Johnny Blaze.
Okay.
Which he was an alcoholic, and that's all he did. He was just an alcoholic. That's it. Like, that was all of his character development was to drink, and he was always drinking.
That's deep for a first character.
I'm saying, man, in '96 too, dude. So, and I'm, not even knowing what the fuck I'm doing. We end up winning the tag titles, but I think it was more of a, we were his friends. It wasn't because we deserved it by any means. Because
100%,
we
right?
dropped him in like 2 days. So we had a cup of coffee with that. But it's what introduced me to it, and I kind of once I got through, I don't know, 6-7 months of it, I stepped away and I went to college. I had a basketball scholarship, so I didn't have a whole lot of time, and fucked my knee up. I don't know, 3 weeks before opening game of the season, as a freshman. Snap, crackle, pop. It's done. So I started like, what can I do? What was? Let me look back into the Efed stuff. And sure enough, like just I Google, or not a Google, but just a search at that point, I came across this weird.
And ask
Uh,
Jeeves.
I don't even remember the Fed name, to be honest with you, but I remember certain characters in the Fed because it, for whatever reason, they resonate today. Like, the big baby face, his name was the Avenger. Obviously, like we're going back at this point, it's like 2001,
Okay.
2002. So like this guy Avenger, this guy LJ, I remember, and I remember LJ. The only reason I remember LJ is because he comes out to one of my favorite songs in "Small Town" by fucking was it John Cougar Mellencamp? So he used to come out as a big old baby face, right? I mean, it fits. Um, Fed closed, obviously, like pretty quick, but in the process, the Fed head was like, "Does anybody know how to run a Fed?" Of
Of course I do.
course I
Of
do.
course I do.
So, just like any young Fed head at 19 years old, put myself over. Um,
Champion, baby.
Not. Well, I did it with a plan though, like because I was trying to make another character, and I wanted to put that character over on pay-per-view instead of doing it on television. But it didn't work out. Ultimately, I ran it for like 3 or 4 months, and it died quickly. Even when I just like I pulled my character back and just like tried to run the Fed. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Um, Stepped away and returned again in like 2005, 2004 as Chris Page, and
It's the introduction to Chris Page.
I believe I went to the CWF was the acronym. I want to say it stood for Championship Wrestling Federation. I could be wrong.
Was it run by a guy named Joe?
I do not know. What I do know is that there was a faction there known as VIP. Uh, Brian, I know Brian Thorne was one of these guys, and I don't even know if these guys are still around. And he's the only one that I can remember off the top of my head that was still there. But that was where I got my first taste of winning a championship. I won the secondary championship there. And it was kind of like the first one. To me, it was my first,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't. But um,
The first
I'm
one
sorry.
somebody else put on you.
Now I'm thinking it's the second one.
Okay.
Because I did come back and I have a story about my first world title. Because I was Chris Page before I went to CWF. I was in another Fed. That's what led me to the CWF. So I sucked and I was still developing Page, but Fedhead was like, "Hey man, you've done a really good job. I want to put the belt on you, but I just want to tell you, I'm going to pull it on you. Pull it off of you on the pay-per-view, which was like 6 weeks, 7 weeks later." So he wanted me to beat the champion with an inside cradle. And anytime that I get the story on my show, which is, my title reign was weak. I held the belt, but I only got it, one defense a month. Got you beat. So the Fed had, I went to him and I was like, well, wouldn't it be funny if you're gonna put the belt on me and I know that I'm terrible? I hadn't really developed the character. I was in the process of developing the
Yeah.
character, right? So it was the genesis of CCP. Um, it'd be funny if you ran a house show the next night and changed the championship back. And he says, it's a good fucking idea. Screwed myself out of a
Out of
six
a
or
run.
7 week out of a
Yeah.
run to switch the title back, and I got out of that storyline. But that helped hone the character, and those people then introduced me to the CWF, and when I had my first championship of longevity was there, and it was a good.
Legitimacy.
Right. Not hey man, we appreciate your work. I'm gonna give you an attaboy. Uh, it was fun. That's also when I first got into like collaborative writing
Mhm.
because those guys were, and I could tell like they were good. There's no doubt about it. Like these are people I probably need to be learning from right now. And they showed me a little bit. That took that little bit and turned it into a lot.
So, what is Chris Page's character when he first is introduced?
Oh, buddy, he, uh, First, he had a casino. He was a proprietor of a casino in
Nice.
Vegas. Um, he had one of the first dispensaries. Uh, Figure. Keep in mind, like I've aged my character as I've had him, right?
Yeah.
So like he's young, he's cocky, he's brash, he's flashing money, he's you know just all about the nightlife and all about living it up, right? Um, and just it slowly developed into as I started progressing, I started to realize like the gimmick of a casino is not really needed. Like that's more of a character. I'm playing something, and that's not Chris Pate. I started to really like dive into the CD side of who my character really is,
Right.
and the only way to do that is to like get out there and try things. Try that, and it just didn't work. And then the more I started really thinking about it and who he is and what made him tick is like, all right, he's more of like kind of a methodical, he's methodically about business. It's all about the money. So you can still incorporate the Vegas side of it and be about the money.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then that's what started driving him was the financial aspect of it and what can he do with his money investment wise outside of the ring and incorporate that into the ring. And I've progressed that when I in character purchased the WGWF, which is we're right on the cusp of that. So I use that character development of selling my casino in Vegas and
Okay.
selling my assets because I saw an opportunity in a Fed, which it had longevity, which was the WGWF, and I was doing some part-time stuff there. And the fedhead was just kind of like, listen, I got to take a break. I got to go do some things. And it was supposed to be just for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And he asked me if I could, can you do it? Well, I've had 5 or 6 years since my first debacle.
Well, that's what I was going to
Uh,
ask you. In the time from your first to your second, what do you learn, and what do you? Well, going into the second, I guess, not necessarily what did you learn, but what are you looking to avoid that you may have hit in the first one?
I learned off rip that if I was going to do it, and I knew that I was going to do it, and I was going to role play. I knew that I wanted to role play too, but I
Okay.
wasn't going to hide the fact that I owned the Fed. Like in character, Paige was the owner. So I didn't do title matches, and if I did do title matches, it was either my roster was really fucking weak, or it storyline called for it, or it something out of the normal would make a call for it. So what I would do is I would have my A, B, my C, and my D programs, my championships, and then I would have my A and my B, storylines that would be underneath my title matches. Well, I would work an angle with somebody down here. My angle, my story would be like a 2 month thing or, maybe a 3 month thing. So while these stories are progressing, I'm building this character up right here. And eventually this character is going to go over on me.
Right, and then he's going to move up the rank.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
now, and in that process with working with me, if they're young, if they were younger or not seasoned or needed help in certain areas. Now, I'm not the best writer in the fucking world. Let me just preface any of that. Um, but I'm good at directing. So I would be like helping these guys along. If you're trying to do trash talk, like they would role play against me, and I'd take their role play and I'd pick it apart. And just do better right here. Like, look at this and go this direction, or why didn't you go harder here versus over here? And do you see why you would do that here? Like help them so that they can compete.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and I was pretty fucking successful at it for a hot minute.
And I mean, that's how you build up loyalty. That's how you build up a roster. And if you can take almost anybody and make them into a halfway decent role player, then you got longevity in your Fed. And that's seen through what you messaged me that it was open 10 years.
No doubt. And it was in the early stages. Um, when I took it over from Adam Barker, I think I ran it for maybe 8 or 9 months, and I shut it down for a minute
Okay.
because I needed to I needed to figure some things out, and I went over to the X Dub at that point too. This is around 2008.
XWF
Yes,
99.com.
there's oh I'm not going to dig too deep into it. But at the end of the day, I wasn't there long. There for about 3 or 4 months, and there was falling out.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's cover everything else, and then we'll hit. Well, let's do your Fed in one run, and then we'll do XWF in one run.
All right, we can do that. All right.
Yeah.
So hiatus for 4 months.
Okay.
Came back, and this is where my love for Centurion
Yeah.
starts. And I give that guy a lot of shit in character. Out of character, man. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. And we'll punch somebody in the face if they do.
I got some shit. No.
Well, bud, get ready. I mean, he's a good dude, but he didn't come in as Centurion, but he was willing to come into the Fed.
Yeah.
And that was through really 3 degrees. I don't even know if these guys are still around. Nick Ryan and Hunter Ryan. They were old guys from 2007, 2008, 2009, but they're the one who got sent on. Well, back then, word of mouth was kind of key.
Mm-hmm.
So
For sure.
some words start to travel that Scent is over here in this Fed, and he's in as a different character. So even if I'm not getting people coming in as their main characters, if I'm getting a secondary or if I'm getting somebody that you're wanting to develop, buddy, that's fresh for my TV.
Bring it in. Bring it in.
Yeah, let's do it. So word of mouth starts to travel, and then all of a sudden, and also I don't know if he's listening, Brian Cady, who handles Elijah Martin today,
Okay.
is very very instrumental in that as well. Because when I came back, it was bleak, brother. Like I had 3, 4, 5 match cards, and of those 5 matches, let's say 2 of them are enhancement matches.
Right.
And so I'm trying to make TV work, and I'm a firm I look at things a little differently. I look at the role play side of the game as one aspect of it, and I look at the TV side of it as something totally different. Your
Okay.
role play side of your game is what drives your TV as far as your winners and your losers, but your TV is what dictates your pace and where your story's driven, right? So you've got the 2 sides of the game. Um, TV was not role plays was not driving TV. TV was driving role plays at that point because I only had 4 or 5 people that were showing up. I didn't think it was going to show. I didn't think we were going to make it.
Yeah.
Then you get Centurion. Then I get Jason Williams, who now handled Andre Dixon, who's a blast from the past. James Raven comes over. I start, Aiden Collins comes in, Star comes in, T Money comes in. I know these people, some people may not know these names, but I'm telling you, from back in the day, they were the measuring sticks.
Yeah.
These guys were your living legends. They were the
All it
they
takes is
were.
a handful of names, and people who know them are like, "Oh, well, I feel comfortable being in this Fed because I know so and so." That's
Right.
all
And
that's all you need, and then all of a sudden you're going to get other people, which is terrific. And then some of those end up standing out or staying in your Fed for long periods of time.
no doubt. And I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and say it was all sunshine and goddamn rainbows. It wasn't. Like
Sure.
there's instances where, disagreements happen. I don't always get it right, but he does. But if I got something wrong and I realized that maybe I got it wrong after the fact, I was going to make it right in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And I took pride in that. And I didn't hide that from my Fed. And I was always very transparent. Like, yo, I fucked up here. Or this was brought up. I don't feel this way. This, what have you. I had those conversations. I didn't not have them.
And you have to. I mean, you have to.
But I say all that to say, like, we blew up. I mean, the Fed blew up. I literally one day had 20 people on the roster, and then the next day I had like 45, and then 55, and then I think I had close to 60. I was running 18 match cards with, at least 2 6-mans.
Get me out of there.
Brother. I had some people helping on the back end, right? And that's why we were successful, and that's why the train kept rolling, and we were able to produce weekly TV.
Yeah.
We were doing podcasting back in 2011. It was a whole different thing. Like I don't know who was listening to it, but Fucking Scent remembers those days. He was co-hosting the show. It was fun. It was when the game, there wasn't a lot of negativity. There wasn't a lot of bullshit. But of course, the internet wasn't as big.
Yeah, right. There wasn't
You
like
didn't
14 feds in one place, right? Like Twitter.
Right. You didn't have, if there was a Fed that had beef, and let's make no mistake about it, and as we get to the XWF, like I had beef with the XWF. My sole part, and I make no bones about it, and anybody who knows me knows the statement that I'm about to make is very fucking true. And then if you fast forward to right now, and we'll get there, um, I wanted to put the XWF out of business. I wanted to close their Fed. And it was personal. Um, and I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that like um I meant it. I said it and I meant it. I don't even
Said
gonna
what I
try and dance
said.
around, I ain't gonna try and dance around it, but there's reasons for it. Um and as life progresses, you end up moving on from some of that stuff. But initially that was what drove me. And when I was at a point at my highest point and they were at their lowest point, um doesn't make it right by any means. But I was having a good goddamn time, looking and saying, how much longer do you got? Um, but as time progressed, I still was running the Fed, and we were moving, man. We were trucking. I can remember there was my Wrestle War 6 card, which is Wrestle Wars was my WrestleMania, obviously. It's the first time James Raven and Chris Page hooked up for the first time.
Okay.
I hit him up. He was on a break from the XWF, and I said, "Hey, man, biggest show of the year is in Toronto, and your character's from Toronto." And at this point, my character had never lost at Wrestle Wars. So I had like the streak going, and I was like, "Bud, do you want to do something? Do me a favor." He came in and he kicked the shit out of me, but he came in, and that was like to me that was like my dream match was right there. It was Raven back in like 2012, 2013.
Right. It's like if you could face the Macho Man, of course you're going to let him drop the elbow on you. Of course.
I didn't have to let him do anything. I just had to say show up here and there, and he dropped the role play. That just spoke for itself. I mean, he just slaughtered me, but. I mean, that's just what he does. But he's good, and I love him. But he came in, he did me the favor, and we've always had a really good relationship. But it's one of those things. It's always something that I look back on with that particular Fed, and seeing, just how like Centurion created his character Jocelyn Camden, who started as a nobody and worked her way up and carried the Fed, and was actually the first female world champion in the WGWF. Like that shit was groundbreaking at that point in time. We felt like we were doing some really good shit.
What year roughly is that?
Oh, he's gonna kill me. 2011 was Camden came in 2010, so 2011.
Just 11 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. When you put it that way.
So you're rocking. I mean, the Fed is rocking and rolling, and you're talking about 2011 at this point. You're talking about a huge roster, and obviously your second stint as a Fedhead goes so much better than your first.
No doubt. It had a lot to do with the people that I was working with. And the roster that I was working with. Now, keep in mind, even at our highest peak, we had like 50 or 60 people. Don't know how many of those may have been multiple characters. So let's just, I mean, come on. Like, I saw the Twitter timelines with like 20 fucking characters, guys. What are you doing?
So, but the question is, when you're managing that many people, you're running a role play Fed, I assume. And how many people you got on staff?
At that point in time, I had 7.
7 staff members again, not even 1-10 ratio. Unbelievable. So you got this many guys. You got 18 match cards. You got 7 guys. So everyone's writing at least two plus matches.
For sure. Now, also keep this on the backside. The same rule applies to me that applies to staff. I'm not putting myself in championship matches. You can role play. You can write.
Sure.
Work side angle. So those 6 other bodies, you got a roster that size, 6 more programs.
Absolutely.
Uh, you know,
And got guys who are invested in making the Fed work.
correct, and
Yep.
the train keeps on moving.
Yeah.
And we can build some storylines. And of course, if the staff guys win, then they fucking win. But it's a, you know what I mean? It's a minor program. It's a character development program, and they would be in the same mentality. How do we get this person their heat back? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So how do we work this in and figure out how to do it? But if the role play doesn't warrant it, it is what it is.
Especially in a very obvious situation.
Correct. I can't put you over me if you don't fucking show up to potential.
Or if you show up
Uh,
with like a paragraph or two.
right, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
You'll lose to a broomstick.
It's happened in Efeding, guys. A lot worse than that.
I've seen somebody get jobbed to a framed picture.
Well, I mean,
I mean, those edges are sharp.
you just gotta Perry Saturn that shit and like take it. Moppy.
All right. So, what ends up closing this Fed?
We get to 2017.
Holy shit, that's a big jump. I apologize. What are we missing in between?
I mean, it was business as usual.
Yeah.
Weekly programming, monthly pay-per-views. I mean, it was business as usual. Now the roster came much more manageable from 2014 to 2017.
Okay.
So I go from 50 plus down to
With the peak of wrestling, you get all these extra e-fetters, and then as things cool off in wrestling, it tends to go that way as well with your roster. I mean,
No doubt.
we see it
just like-
every year. Every year.
Exactly. It's like this. It's the winds of change. Just like summertime usually is a dry spell for e-fetting. Why? Because most of these guys got families at this point in time, and you got kids,
Yeah.
and you're going to be
Gotta
out
get
and about.
out.
And right. You're doing that. So it comes in droves. It comes in waves. It's same concept back then.
Yeah.
Summertime it would cool off. Wintertime, fall, winter, pick back up, and I planned my shit around when I knew I was going to have particular handlers. So my big events would be when I would
The
all
hot
fall.
times. Yeah.
Correct, and whatever falls in between, I'm building other characters. So the train kept moving and it kept rolling and it kept going. I think I stepped away for of that entire run, maybe 6 months.
Okay.
For
a 10-year run.
Yeah, I had Raven.
It's impressive,
Raven.
man. It really is.
Raven stepped in and ran it for probably half of that time, 3 months at least, when I was dealing with something personal. And that's where I credit him to this day. The day that I always had respect for Raven, but the day that I was like, I will ride for you, we were having a phone conversation. My Fed was my life. That was my baby. Outside of my personal life, outside of work and my personal life, that's what I did. Invested so much time in it, and I had a situation where I was not going to be available.
Yeah.
And we were talking on the phone, and I just opened up to him a little bit, and I was like, bro, this is what I'm dealing with, and here's what I'm afraid of, and this is what I'm not so sure of. He's like, what do you need from me, man? I need you to step in, and I don't trust anybody. At that point, I didn't. He did.
It's a big ask, and it's a big deal that someone takes that on and does it in a successful manner and doesn't just shut it down after a few weeks.
So not only that, like we had made it, I remember this vividly. He may not. We kind of made a deal. He was like, I'll call you every week, and his TV was every week. And I'll call you every week, and we'll talk about the results. When we'll talk about this, we'll talk about everything. And called me every week. Every week.
Perfect.
I got would or via at that point in time PM or a text message or a phone, but we spoke every week about the program, the direction of it. So a man of his word. To this day, if he was to ask me to do anything for him outside of maim or murder, I would probably say yes.
Right. That's awesome, and it's cool that you can build a friendship like that so many years ago, and it's still rolling today.
Over a fucking game.
Yeah.
Over a game. But yeah, it's like that's legit. Yeah, I sell Raven on Twitter all the time, and I sell him in person. Like he's just he to me he's the epitome of a stand-up guy. Because had he not done that, I don't know if my Fed would have if we would have ever came back at that point in time.
You had him on your podcast recently. We've got him lined up for an episode here in 2 or 3, I believe. And so I'm excited to get into it and talk to him because he's a guy who's been mentioned many times on this show.
Oh, you listen. You'll have a great conversation.
Yeah.
He's a really cool dude. I'm not gonna put him over anymore. I'm not gonna give him more Burger Felicia because he's got an episode of his own coming up.
See?
But nonetheless, like, and that was like in the midway point. Like we were getting really hot, and so like that to me that meant everything. And we'll circle around to that because it again, Raven has a way, right? Uh, I come back and we pick it up and we just ran. I mean, I had a whole run, but what ultimately led to the end of it was the passion to do it every week ran out.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years. 10 years. Every Monday. 10 years. My Mondays, I'd go to work at an 8 to 5. And I would write the show. Monday night. I'd get off work at 5 o'clock. I would pre-write some matches throughout the week. Ones that I knew were gonna be showing up. And I had my other guys that were writing a couple matches, but every Monday. I'd have everything. They would submit everything out with 2 finishes. I would pick the finish. Copy and paste and put everything in. I'd spend 3 hours working on a fucking show, coding it, putting in all this other bullshit. I wouldn't get home till 9:30. Every Monday for 10 years. No, thank you.
And never again, right?
Never say never.
Oh, there he is.
We'll get there too.
I've gone on record many times to say running a Fed's the worst.
Blessing. Literally, it's a blessing and a curse. It really is.
It's a blessing,
And
it's a blessing when you take it on, and then you're like, "Holy shit, this is dog shit."
Cursed.
Floodgates open. It's always fun until the complaining starts. But doubt.
All right. So ultimately, what happens?
The passion went away. I got to a point where you can see the writing on the wall. When you're losing handlers, and at this point in time, keep in mind this is 2017, and while Twitter is now a thing and has been a thing, I'm not social media. I'm not on social media. I'm not fucking with it. It's just not me. That wasn't me up until like 2019, and so like even with the popularity of my Fed, it was all word of mouth. Never advertised anywhere. So I would imagine, in hindsight, if I would have jumped on Twitter back then, I probably could have salvaged it and probably could have kept it running. But the reality of it is I was burnt.
Well, hold on. Hold on. If the issue is the blessing and curse and the complaining comes in, that's the curse. If you'd have been on Twitter, you'd have shut it down faster.
Probably right, based on what goes on out there nowadays.
It's wild out there. I won't even touch it. It's that's all Mikey's realm. I can't deal.
Shit. I was in a relationship. It was a long-term relationship. It was almost 10 years, and it ended. And I needed to decompress, and I needed to get away from everything and everyone around me, and I did. And had no intentions, none, of coming back to Efeding. I was content. I was fine.
The relationship ran the course of the Fed.
And they were not involved in it at all, right? Like it was all coincidence that it all happened after as it transitioned and how it played. But it was just time. When to call it.
Yeah.
Was it?
Really cool. So awesome that you had you had a Fed for 10 years. Hell of a run. And a lot of big names passed through on the way. Let's rewind. Let's hit the XWF. Brian, hit that rewind sound.
rewind to the best of my ability back to, we'll step in our time machine and go back to 2000, at least 2008.
Okay.
Back in
So
time.
I approached to come into the XWF. I do. Um, didn't know anything about the Fed. Didn't know a whole lot. That's where I was introduced to Sean Warstein, who was then Fuzz. Uh,
Boo.
so I don't know how it happened, but I was brought in pretty much on top. And of course, when you come into a Fed, and all I know about the XWF at this point is that they've been around since '99.
Right.
That's it. I don't know shit. I don't know history. I don't know nothing. And at this point in time, like you know, I don't. I've won world titles. I've done it, been there, done that in several different feds, but none of them are really prominent and didn't really, no name value there. So like I tack them onto the resume, but I'm not going to brag about them by any means because they're nothing. It's not nothing to write home to mom about. Um, I get brought in on top, I believe, and programmed with Sean Warstein for the world title. And back then, I think they had the universal title and then the world title. So I'm programmed opposite him, and I thought one thing should have went my way, and it clearly did not. And as Warstein would say, I burned every bridge on the way out.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You have that.
Hopefully, the one he was standing on.
Uh, yeah, he was on it. Uh,
Fuck you, fuck.
you have that one that you wish that you could take back that you're in the wrong on.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, I don't know that feeling. I say fuck you fuzz constantly, and I'm wrong, but I don't want to.
No taking back.
Well,
No take backs.
I'm sorry.
it was a situation where I and again, don't do this. Like literally, listeners, do the opposite of this. Don't go to the boards and pitch a fucking fit without speaking to the Fed head first. Don't, you know, just don't do that. And don't burn your opponent. And don't, just, no, just not a good idea.
Unless it's fuzz.
It was fuzz.
Because if it's fuzz, it's fine.
At the time,
that's a known thing.
like I was told one thing by one of the powers that be, and something else happened. Um, I vented my frustrations, and that led to my disdain for the XWF at the time and wanting to put them out of business. So, since WGWF, fast forward 10 years, we're back to the XWF. Um, fast forward to 2012, I had created a side character, Tristan Slater, and I was still running the WGWF. And what I wanted to do was start a character somewhere, but I didn't know where to really go other than the XWF. So I was like, I'm going to infiltrate the Fed under
Oh, a new alias.
under a guise, and I'm going to see if what I think happened happened. Now, what has now happened on the XWF side is there's a change in ownership. There's a new guy that's running the shot, calling the shots, new whatever. Come in, I create a different character. Match 1 win, match 2 win, match 3 win, match 4 win, match 5 win. I start going on. I'm on a streak. Pick up their United States Championship. Pick up their Extreme Championship. Bring back the World Championship. I pick up the World Championship. I'm 21 and 0. And in the 21 and 0. Before I the fedhead, and I was like, you know who I am, right? And so I told him, and he and I had a conversation, So there was common ground that was reached. This is not the same individual that was running the Fed before. I'm not going to name drop. But we reached common ground. But we reached common ground, and I was like, cool, we can do this. Uh, I end up. This is where I run into Mark Flynn, who he's around today. And if you've not read his work, I strongly encourage it. He is a tremendous comedy writer over in the XWF. He's great. Does stand-up comedy for a living, so go figure. It's going to translate very well onto the role plays. But he was the first guy to beat me, and he cashed in a briefcase on me to win the championship. And uh, this we start, we start the first cross promotional angle. We're, me and the fedhead are like, all right, we think that we can do this. A 2 pay-per-view shot that we were building. The first pay-per-view, I had one of my guys, one of my hot heels, Paul Frost, came over to the XWF to challenge Tristan Slater for the world title, which was me. Now, this was not a scripted match, so if Paul had posted, quality fucking work, he could have won the XWF world title, and this angle could have went so many different ways, right? Hit the bed.
Instead, yeah.
Hit the bed. And so Slater wins, and then we build it to a War Games match, and that's where the wheels fall off again.
Always at a War Games.
So the first time, XWF versus WGWF, we built it right, we sold it right. The match went off without a hitch until we get to the judging side of the equation, which is always where it collapses. He saw it one way, I saw it another way. There was someone else that saw it my way, someone else that saw it his way. It's always, and this is what I say about role playing, it's always open to interpretation, and it's always open to different perspective.
100%. Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, I made a call, and WGWF went over. He didn't agree with that call. It became very nasty and very dirty and very just shitty. I walked away. That's strike 2. I'm done. And that was 2012, 2013. So that's what relit the, all right, fuck XWF. I'm going to burn you to the ground fire, and maintained it pretty much until I closed down in 2019, and I got the infamous DM from Raven in early to mid 19.
Come back.
Yeah, he hit me up on Facebook, and I had at that point I had still had Facebook kind of active, but not really on it per se. So like he had messaged me, and 6 weeks later I responded. It was like, hey,
one good thing to ever come from fucking Facebook.
Yeah.
He hit me up, and coincidentally, again, another management change in the XWF. This is where we get into Vinny Lane and Theo, who are now running it today.
Yes, sir.
Raven hit me up. He's like, just what's going on, yada yada yada. I've got this thing, and he had put on the XWF 10-year reunion, which I took part on, and I want to say that was in 2010. 2009. So 2009. We took part of the 10-year reunion, and I headlined that show with Ronma against Dante and Goliath and Aiden Collins. He was putting on the 20-year reunion show. Jesus. And he hit me up, and
incredible.
He says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Not a whole lot. What's up?" He says, "I'm thinking about doing 20-year show. If you could get anybody and you wanted to do the show, who would you want to do it with?" At this point in time, I tagged with Rodma 10 years earlier. We worked together in the WGWF. He was instrumental in the very peak periods. He was very instrumental behind the scenes. He was my right hand. So we worked hand in hand together. We'd never had a singles match, never a one-on-one singles match. He said, "So who would you go after?" And I went, "Paul and Joel." And he lived in Tampa at the time. So I hit him up. I said, "Hey, let's where you at?"
On off, yeah.
I'm in Ybor City. I'm sitting at the cigar bar. I lived right around the corner from Ybor City. Town. I'd be there in 15 minutes. Sat down with him. We had a cigar. We had a couple cocktails, and I said, "What?" Opened up my phone and threw it over in his lap, and I had the message from Raven on it. He looked at the phone, and he looked at me, and he looked back down the phone, looked back at me, and said, "Fuck you." I said, "So you doing it?" All right, man. Yeah, I'll do it. So we hooked that match up, and I still think to this day that it's cool as shit that I got to headline the 10 show and then turn around 10 years later and do the 20 show.
Yeah.
As a featured attraction. I don't think it was the headline. It may not have been the headline, but if it
Sure.
wasn't, it was right up there. But it was so cool to be able to do that. Before we get to the reunion, he says, "Hey, well, this is going to be in like September. We're in like February, March.
Okay.
Like, what are you doing in the meantime?" Not much. I'm not. He's like, "You want to come back?" And I wasn't sold on the XWF at that point. I was sold on Raven. Raven wanted me to do the 20-year show. At the time, and this is where like you just say, I bless Vinny and Theo's hearts, and I say this because there's a lot of shit that has come along with them trying to make the XWF work. They've done a pretty fucking good goddamn job of it. When you really sit back and you look at the bigger fucking picture, bless their hearts, because most people wouldn't do it or wouldn't have even attempted.
That's
Um,
some southern ass shit.
Raven hits me up, and of course, we have the conversation. They burned me once, they burned me twice, and the site is hosting the event that's going to be in X amount of months. If I come in and I feel like I'm getting burned a third time, like I'm done. There's not, I don't know if I can take it. So I remember he pitched the angle to come in and do the War Games match. At that point in time, like Vinny and Theo were trying to like bridge the gap between old generation and the new generation, because in era number 2, the new generation was banned. We were not allowed. So to bridge that gap, Raven had reached out to a couple people. Tyrion being one of them, I think Warstein being one of them, and myself being one of them for sure. And I think Heather Hallowell was one of them. Betsy Granger now. We all came back, doing our own little thing. I ended up in a War Games match opposite the Universal Champion. So the natural fit was for me to come in as I'm gonna play what you did to me, like you fucked me. We're going to acknowledge that
We're gonna bring it up. Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna acknowledge why the hostility is here and why, whatever it is. Because if at the end of the day, if this doesn't work, at least I can come in and say, was as real as I could possibly be, without hurting feelings. Because I did tell him I would watch myself, unless it just got egregious. And the War Games match didn't go my way, and I didn't complain about it. I was just kind of like, I looked at Raven, and I was like, all right, what's next? Because if we were gonna do, the plan was to do a uni match versus Robert Maine, which is where my character first interacts with Robert, and he is very instrumental in the next 2 years.
Before we get there, Brian, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Bong bong. Enjoy the
So
starting soon screen, folks.
enjoy starting soon. Hey everybody, back again. We are back from our break. Apologies. Restroom break was needed for all of the guests and participants on the show. So we are back and ready for action for hour 2 of the show. All right, we were talking about the war games. Goes off without a hitch. Yeah, it doesn't go your way, but you're happy to keep rolling in the Fed and seeing how things go as you dip your toes back in the XWF for a third time.
Yeah, no doubt. And now keep in mind too, like this is or that Raven will. I laugh about it because like I would not talk to anybody in the XWF. Like I was really very like I was protective, man. Like I've spent the last 15 years building a character, and I
You've
feel
been
like it's
hurt
been shit
before.
on. You know what I mean? Right? I'm bitter. I got bitter feelings. Um.
Yeah.
So you
Told
know,
me once, shame on you.
so Raven is having to communicate. He's playing the middleman. I'm not talking to him.
Hello,
This
I'm
is
not talking to them.
yeah, exactly nose up in the air and everything, motherfucker. I'm not doing it. And it got to the point where like finally he was like, "Bro, you got to get on Discord." And it's like you got to get on Discord. And I was like, "What's Discord?" I don't know what that is at that point, right?
There you
Uh,
go.
anyway, long story short, we transition and I finally start having little meeting conversations with the fedheads. I'm introduced to Robert Maine, and he's the Universal Champion. Has been the Universal Champion for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. He was approaching a record at one point. Um, and you know, he when I first came in, he'll be the first one to tell you that he thought I was just OOC thought I was just a fucking asshole. But again, I was playing a character on. They don't know. I've not talked to them. They don't know that you know. Is it
All,
real or is it an act? You
all
know,
they know is what they've seen on the TV show because
correct.
you're not participating OOC up to that point.
And then the role plays, right?
Yeah.
So I figure that if at best, I can work a character out of this, and I can work something out of it. I I get to work with Robert Maine, and we parlay the war games into a leap of faith. That's the next pay per view is leap of faith was, and I had a title match. I and over cocktails with Robert have had this debate. I believe to this day that I nailed him on that show. I'm not the only one that thinks I nailed him on that show. There are notable names who feel the same way, but it did not go my way. So here I am again, third time.
That's why roleplay is terrible.
Up,
Who
up,
do
up, 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 boom.
who do I call? Fucking,
Ghostbusters.
fucking
Sorry.
James Raven. James Raven. Um, and I'm livid. I even that's I have not even since then. I've only questioned like maybe 2 matches in the XWF since my return, and that was one of them. And I was just kind of like, "Yo, here's
I'm
what this."
fishy. Yeah.
I mean, this is just where it's at, and Theo had the conversations with me, but keep in mind, look at it from their perspective as well. At this point in time, I haven't had a whole lot of conversations with you, and now I'm coming to you with a fucking problem. What I feel is a problem.
Yeah.
So put the shoe on the other foot, and knowing that this guy, I've been here twice before, and there's been 2 other issues at this point in time. So um, we don't really find a resolution to it. I end up, getting myself in a position to get a third match, and I was gonna settle for that. And my thing with them was given to me one more time. And at this point, it was going into Relentless in September. So now I've come back in March, and here we are in September. I'm
You
occupied,
bridge
man.
that gap. Yeah.
I've occupied. I've literally done what you wanted me to come and do. But it wasn't all like organically, or it wasn't all pre-planned. It was like kind of organically put together. Like I had to win for it to happen.
We're
I
not.
had
Yeah.
to
Now is it going to pay off or not?
Right, and my thing to them was, listen, I meant it out of character and in character. If I don't beat him on this show, I don't want to challenge for your belt again. Period. End of story. This is not an angle. It's not a story. I know I can beat him. And they set it up for Relentless, and at this point in time, I don't know it's their WrestleMania. I'm not focused on that.
Yeah, because it's not
Uh,
called Rentomania.
we're 3 weeks out the show, and somebody who had a briefcase for over a year came back to the Fed and cashed in, took the championship. Um, to Vinny's credit, he came to me and was like, "I'll make if you want to do this as a triple threat, yada yada yada." Well, I'm mad. No, I don't want to do a triple threat. You guys have your rematch.
Have your match. I'll wait over here.
I'll come down here and do commentary for the match, and that's exactly what I did as a character. Robert lost the rematch at that particular pay per view, and he was fed up. I was kind of fed up. We were both contemplating leaving again. Um, and he just happened to be like, "Well, we could. What do you think about working together?" Wait a minute. What do you mean work together? We just worked this whole heated angle where you're the epitome of everything I hate.
You mean as a tag team?
Correct.
Okay.
So we end up getting a storyline together where it made sense, and we end up tagging together. Well, in the process of tagging together, this went together. This went for a year, brother. We pick up the tag titles. Like he's showing me as we're going along, and I say he's very instrumental and detrimental. Has now been successful in this Fed for like 3 years, since like 2017. We're going into 2019, 2020. He's showing me, hey, here's where you're weak in your story. I'm going to show you how to tell a really good story. I'm weak in my trash talk. I want you to show me how to enhance my trash talk. Legal Docs became our best friend.
Amazing.
And I started having fun again. You know what I mean? And in the process of having fun again, I opened the idea up that maybe this time around it's legitimate. I started talking to people in the Discord chat. I remember the first time I dropped a message, like 6 people were like, "What?" And it was just like a "Hey guys."
Ooh.
So I started opening up to Theo a little bit. I started opening up to Vinny a little bit, and talking to them. And Robert and I were clicking. We were doing really big things with the tag titles. We were having fun. But we always knew that when the time came, that it only made sense to circle back around and finish what we started, because we both legitimately felt like we were kind of screwed out of the big payoff. Um, we worked with great teams, opposite great teams. Centurion and Ruby was one team. Centurion. Um, we had goddamn what is his name? Chris
Eh,
Chaos and Hanari Carnes was another team in the XWF. I mean, these are guys that are Chaos, for example, is a former Universal Champion. I mean, these characters have longevity there, and it's there were some good stories that were being told. Um, we held the belts for like 9 months, defended them whenever they put them up on the line. We had an open. Our deal was if you want to work, just put your name on the dotted line, and we'll put the belt up. Nobody would really take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Like we're serving it up to you, and you don't take it. Like okay. Uh,
in a role play Fed, I mean you think that would be easy bait.
mhm. Well, and Rob also, while all this stuff's going on in the background, is the one who introduces me to Twitter. Um, I right. Uh, I opened it. He's like, you gotta open a Twitter account. Why? This is in 2020. Why do I gotta open a Twitter account, dude? Well, you gotta share your role plays. You can get so many eyes on your work. I don't really don't care. Like I'm not that guy. I don't.
Not a showboat. Yeah.
I wasn't at the time. You know what I mean? But like it was just kind of like I don't really give a fuck. And I had like 50 followers. So whatever. It wasn't the app wasn't even on my phone, bro. Like
Right.
it wasn't. Um, so as we're progressing our story, we end up getting to to high stakes against Thad Duke and an XWF legend, Dr. Louis DeVille. And they're the ones who finally unseat us for the tag straps. Um, and coincidentally,
Both former top 100 wrestlers on the Efed podcast countdown.
no doubt.
EfedPodcast.com.
And this is where the fun really started to begin because Thad Duke. And I'm going to talk about him for a minute if I can. He's a guy that Robert and I had a 2.5 year program. Duke and I had a 9 month program, and I don't know which one I had more fun in. Duke and I,
It's a great feeling, right?
Robert and I was kind of planned. We knew where we wanted to go, but Duke and I was just kind of like thrown together, and it turned into like the best 6 to 8 months. When he came back to the Fed, he ended up picking up the TV title. He didn't want it because it was the role play structure for that belt. It's an unlimited rider. It's a 3K belt. It just didn't mesh. He ended up winning the championship. We ended up doing a story where we do a ladder match, and so we didn't have to take a pinfall or whatever, and I would take the belt because I was in a side story for the TV title at that point in time, anyway.
Okay.
So I did. That's what happened. To get the win back, Relentless is the same year. This is 2020. 2020 was a big year for me when you really sit back and think about it. It's probably my biggest year in the game because the XWS Relentless show was a 3 night event. On night one,
holy shit!
Night one, your main event was CCP versus Thad Duke, and to give Thad the win back, we already knew going in that and this is what I like about it, if you're gonna script something, don't phone it in. Nobody knew it. Nobody knew it was scripted except for me and him.
Yeah.
And it was scripted for him to get the win back so that we could do a bigger, real big blow off when it mattered. Right? So this was just kind of a feeder to give him to get the win back. So we do a DQ finish, right? Intentionally get disqualified. Night 2 of Relentless, Robert and I defend the tag titles against Ruby and Centurion in the main event of night 2. I've headlined night 1 and night 2 of Relentless. Night 3, I'm defending the television championship against Thunder Knuckles, and I hope he's listening. Because if you ever have that one opponent that you underestimate that comes back and bites you in the ass, it was him. Do you want to talk about playing my game against me and doing it better? It totally happened. I went in big headed that this was third from the top on night 3. Oh, and Thunder Knuckles, his pick base is Danny McBride from Eastbound and Down. He's got that luscious mullet, right?
Yes, sir.
So, as the television champion, I got to name the stipulation. What did you think my stipulation was for this?
Hair match.
You're goddamn right it was. So, this is where, this is just me and my own. And I wrote the match, and I usually don't spoil shit, but I was like, hey, man, I hit TK up the day of the show. Finishing it up is the last piece for the show. I was like, listen, you're winning this thing. He had 2 finishers listed. One of them was a sleeper hold, and the other one was a thunderstrike. I call him and I'm like, hey, I just got one question. Well, how do you want to win? You're going over. How do you want to do it? And I was praying that he said sleeper. I said the thunderstrike. Thunderstrike is a single foot DDT.
Okay.
Single foot DDT. Page goes out to a belt shot to the head. Single foot DDT in the center of the ring. And has his head shaved bald at Relentless Day 3. Loses the championship and his hair. And then, fast forward, the next pay-per-view series was when we dropped the belts. But it was a fun time. To me, that was I started clicking. It started all right, I started really having fun.
It's a highlight in your e-wrestling career.
Doubt. And Duke, high stakes, this is where it all, like I say, it's organic. The Universal Champion had vacated the championship, so there was a battle royal. Duke was a part of it. Doc was a part of it. I was a part of it. Warstein was a part of it as another character. Alias made his debut there. uh, and love. Uh, he
Otherwise
Elias,
known as Elias. Yes,
Elias, yeah, Elias.
Elias, pseudonym.
pseudonym on the show.
So he debuts here, and and Duke ends up winning. It comes down to Duke. Corey Smith is another great writer who's out there. Corey, Duke, myself, and Warstein were the last four standing, and it came down to Duke going over, and he wins the Universal Championship and the tag titles on the same night.
You'll never hear the end of that, I'm sure.
Oh, it was. You couldn't plan it any better. So behind the scenes, Robert Maine has already, made it, kind of made his case that he's ready to challenge for the Universal Championship when we lose the belts,
Okay.
which is totally fine. It's cool. It's whatever. Duke ends up picking up the championship. This is right around when COVID really became a thing.
March, April, May of 2020.
Yeah, it's real sick in December of 2020. No, excuse me, November of 2020. Doesn't really recover fully until like February-ish. He had already made plans to challenge for the belt. We had already acknowledged it in role plays. Like the continuity was already there. We ended up losing the titles in November. Bob's set to challenge in January. Like it's pretty much a done deal. Well, what do you do?
Yeah.
I pitched the angle. I went to the brass and listen. Why don't we? It's ready made.
Okay.
Page is ready made. And Robert and I knew eventually when he came back, we had to circle back around to us. So I went to Robert and I went to Theo and I said, well, here's what we do. Robert, we build it up like you're going to challenge, on the Christmas edition of Warfare. You're going to make your challenge known. Like it's known behind the scenes to us, but not like publicly out there. Everybody assumes. Come out to make your challenge, but you don't make it to the ring. Cameras go back, you're knocked out. Age of scene getting people like around you. And I go to the ring and I accept the challenge on Robert's behalf because Robert's not here. I accept the challenge. We
Not
run the
here.
we run the right. We run the story. We get Duke and Page, and I end up winning the Universal Championship. It's the first time, the only time I won it. But beat Duke.
Hey.
It was a great run. Thad, if you're listening out there, I still appreciate that, and I'll never forget it because it was a story that was so good organically from beginning, middle to end. If you look at, starting with the TV, we joke and say it spanned three divisions: the TV title, the tag titles, and ended with the Universal title, which that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it's cool you could say that 100%.
So now you get back around to Robert, right? So it gets revealed that months later that I actually orchestrated the attack on Robert Maine. We build to a title match. I go over. This is 4 or 5 months into the run, and Alias cashes in on me. And run starts where he picks up his uni, and it's kind of not really look back except for when he was on a hiatus. Um, Robert and I finish our shit up. We go to Relentless of 2021, and how we blew it off was we put our XWF careers on the line in a it was 2 out of 3 falls, three stages of hell, one fall each night, to open the show every night.
Each
And,
night. Nice.
right.
Nice.
And we knew where we were going with that. As at this point in time, I've transitioned into staff, and it was time to tie a bow on CCP so that we could get him off TV and get him behind the scenes because he's legitimately the in character GM of Wednesday Night Warfare now.
And you've been running him since what?
Page,
Yeah.
been running Page since like 2004.
So in character, he's aged as
Oh, yeah.
well.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's 52, the character.
Yeah. And I know you
Uh,
use a Chris Jericho pick base,
oh, no
which,
doubt.
which for the age is just about perfect. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So we put Robert ends up going over on night 3. Paige's career's done. The rivalry's ended. The angle's finally over, and it's the longest storyline that I've ever done. that had a beginning, middle, and end, and the arcs were so good, and so many people were incorporated with it. I'd be remiss, and I'm glossing over it. Like Bob was a faction back then that was tied into the storyline, and
Okay.
with Thunder Knuckles and Bobby Bourbon. Like I hired TK to be the guy to crack Robert Main's skull. Uh, and like we incorporated with how the faction Bob was brought up, like the dates and shit, like going back. Like we connected stories. Like I built a story around Bob's, you know, around their faction being built with the dates and shit that was correlated within 2020 into like 2019 into 2020 and into 2021. So I tied all this stuff together, and it looked like it was this big orchestrated deal to can take down the XWF and Robert Main, and we did. When we had the uni, we had the tag titles. I think we had the TV title at one point. We were just missing one or two belts, and we would have had everything in the XWF. It would have been great.
Well, when you're rocking that well and you've got the story going that you're absolutely enjoying, that's peak e-fetting.
It was great. It was great, and don't know if it's anything that I'll ever top. As far as like stories and telling and doing it, because I don't know how much longer I'm gonna do it, but it was legitimately fun, and being able to wrap it up in the XWF and do it on a very friendly term versus not so. Well, it's polar opposites, night and day.
It's once again coming full circle.
Exactly.
It's
Um,
really cool, and it's cool that it's kind of the place that you call home the past few years
oh no doubt.
after all the turmoil you went through.
And this is something that I say to people all the time. You know, we get the rap of I don't know how how can you be fed there or what have you. Like I tell people straight up, listen, if there was anything there that was going on that didn't have no business being going on, I wouldn't be there or be associated with it.
Yeah,
If anybody has any reason not to want to do anything there, it would be me. And if I
listen,
it's fun.
there's only so much you can control in e-wrestling. There's only so much you know ahead of time. We're not interviewing applicants that are joining our feds. We don't know Travis from Chris from Brian to Mikey. No one knows who we are. No one knows what we're about. No one knows our backgrounds.
No doubt.
You'd be remiss if you just didn't. When you're a fedhead and you get someone who says, "Hey man, I want to join your fed," you're in.
No doubt.
Short of
Um,
if you can write, you're in.
it's turned into a wonderful thing. And it's turned into a beautiful piece of what I do now. Um, with Paige not being active in the XWF, it opened the doors for CCPE. It's opened the doors for the podcasting side of the equation. It's opened the doors for so much that I've got my fingers in that it's fun.
Well,
It's
and that's where I was going to land. Is now you're doing so much. Um,
Do you hate it yet?
no, hold on. Before we get there, but Chris Page is jumping left, right, up and down, fed to fed, doing different promotional events, doing interfed stuff, doing special pay per view appearances. I love seeing you getting around on Twitter and doing your thing and getting into all these feds. I've seen 5VW. I've seen the Fight NYCs, all the names out there. What's it like just branching out now on Twitter and seeing all these different interfeds and just diving in and trying different stuff?
Well, I mean, that's a whole another story altogether. And in order to get there, I got to talk about what got me there. I had originally planned to do a small faction in the XWF and manage them. We never really got it off the ground. But in the backside, like we had been doing the XWF podcast to Thunder Knuckles and Bobby Bourbon and myself had been doing those for almost a year at this point, and like I had heard about the Efed podcast, I'd heard Sean's episode, I heard Centurion's episode. I was just like, "What the fuck, man? Let's I mean, I was bored. Let me see what I can do and see if it will, if anything
If
will
these jamoke can
resonate.
do it, we can do it better. Let's do something.
No,
No, no.
but it was very instrumental, because that's kind of what drove my program. And that's a testament to you guys, not to suck your dick on your show, but I'm just saying, like, it's fact. Like, I heard the show, I liked the show, I'm listening in, it's fun. And never in a million years did I kind of expect to get the little traction that it got. But it's something that I grew to enjoy. And I'm a firm believer, like, I'm trying to build the community a little bit. Like, I know I'm not perfect and I make mistakes. Everybody does. And excuse my headset, the guy broke earlier today. Um, I went an hour and a half before I said something.
I do. I was waiting. I was wondering, are we gonna say something? I don't know.
I waited an hour and a half.
Folks, that's
Uh,
long form storytelling.
Everybody had gimmicks on when we started, but everybody's gimmicks gone now. Mine's still here.
Got too hot.
I win. Don't put it on now, brother. um, getting to the fireside chats, I'm able to talk, like, just like, you guys, you're able to talk to all these different guys from all over the world.
Yeah.
Not just the United States, all over the world. I mean, I talked to Supreme Machine, and he's like Dutch, and
We talked to Alias, and he's
Alias,
Australian.
he's Australian. I mean,
Who
Sebastian
knows?
is British. Like, it's so cool to be able to sit down and hear your story. Everybody's got one, and they're all different, and that's what I get out of it, and I enjoy it. So, and knowing that when you put out a product,
Hold on, you're jumping so far ahead, brother.
sorry.
I think it was my fault.
No. So,
Hey,
all right,
that's why I don't talk in these things.
we'll transition. So you're on the podcast, and I appreciate the shout out so much. And obviously, I did your show here recently. Was it a month ago that it aired or so? Hard to
Give or
tell
take,
these
yeah.
days. Yeah. So did a show on the Fireside Chats and really enjoyed it, and you were very, very kind to us on that show and complimented us and what we do here and talked about us. So we obviously appreciate you very much. And we talked on your show. Obviously, people were wondering, hey, is there any drama between the
Talk about
Fireside Chats and the Efed podcast?
Yeah. No heat, unfortunately.
No heat.
None.
It'd probably
it's.
make for better ratings if there were.
I'm just saying. And it's interesting because after we had that conversation on my show, I had the Power Hour came about, and he hit me up and was like, "I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Just want to make sure if you're okay with it." And I'm not trying to put him on blast, but I immediately had a flashback to our conversation, and I was just like, "Give a shit, man.
Yeah.
No. When,
No.
when are you airing it? Now let me, you know what I mean? We'll plug it.
Why would I be worried?
More
No,
the merrier. The more the merrier. Like, again, same concept.
So
Cover who
yeah,
you can cover.
for those who didn't listen, I told our guy Chris here that when this all started, when he started his podcast, Fireside Chats, people would DM me, "Hey, have you heard this? Did you hear about this? Someone else is doing an Efed podcast," and I would be like, "Okay, thank you, I appreciate that information, but I'm not offended." Or people would DM me when I started the Efed podcast, "Hey, can I do a podcast?" And I'll be like, "Bro, you don't need my permission." What?
That's the beauty of podcasts. You can just do it.
No, it's because you're the original Podfather, brother. That's what that's all about. Efed Podfather, man, that's you. I joke around and call myself that all the time, but it's the truth. It's, to me, it's one of the first shows. It's if not the first show that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure maybe in the past.
No, hold on.
But
We are not the first Efed podcast. We are just the Efed podcast because we picked up the name. But otherwise, there was other, the Efed Journal, there was Efed Gorillas, there was the EW After Party, things that I participated in as a special guest. I mean, many, many, many moons ago. but there was kind of like nothing going on at the time, and that's why I jumped on the Efed podcast.
And the biggest thing is, we spent a little bit of money.
Oh, that
Yeah, I got that
bought
story as well.
Bought some .coms. I mean, it's, you know.
bought some .coms, tried some things,
Yeah, nothing crazy.
dabbled.
Same thing. Same thing when some other EWT, something similar cropped up. Everybody's like, "Oh, look at that," and we're like, "Oh, okay." Well, it was gone in 2 weeks. Like,
Other people doing things for e-fetting is awesome.
yeah, hey,
Do your thing.
Do it.
We're not
And,
we're not competing.
Not at all.
I not happening. I think the more that gets out there, the better. Think I've got a kind of a bigger plan in place that I'm looking at, but getting to the traveling stuff, what led to it was the success of the fireside chat, and I was like, well, how can I, if I'm not role playing in the XWF, I was doing stuff in fight at that point. That was, once a week or once every 2 weeks, one role play, so it wasn't like it was a big chore. I still had a little free time because I wasn't editing shit at that point either. Let me make that clear. I had an editor, and people doing the work because they didn't know how to do it yet. So how do you give back? Well, if my name is what is attractive, well, let me just plug your shit. I'll come over and do something. And it started slow. And this is where I know, like, my shit's all podcast related. I totally get it because for the fireside, again, 50 followers. Fireside started, I mean, it's over 500 in like a
Awesome.
6 month jump. You know what I mean? So like, I
Yeah,
get it.
no, it's awesome.
My shit's podcast. It has nothing to do with my career or what have you. And I understand, I understand that role within it. So I'll play to it. So why not? Let me come over here and do something here. Let me come over here and do something here. And I just started booking myself out. Who's doing what, where, you got a big show coming up. You got somebody that you want to, anybody need to work with somebody. It just, it starts gradually working that way. And in the process, I start building CCPE, which is obviously, it's people connected to all different federations, and different federation representation. The original goal of that was to like try and pull feds together. And if you wanted to try and, cross bridges and go role play in, say SCW. Mac Bain is a part of CCPE as far as with an SCW is concerned. Well, what's Mac got going on? Is there something that you can come in and piggy off of so you're not coming in cold and you can figure out what they're looking for role play wise and transition your style and have a couple of matches to do it with? Because I think where a lot of people get lost in the sauce when they start into another Fed or try another Fed is you don't know what they're looking for.
100%.
Trial and error until you figure it out.
Yeah.
So people that I've got involved within CCPE, a lot of them are veterans. Thad Duke, Peter Vaughn, Sebastian Bryce, Mac Bain. These guys have been around for years.
Decades, yeah.
There's knowledge there. And much like I teach them, they teach me. You've got the younger handlers or the younger characters that are out there. There's Elijah Martin's involved with CCP, Cat Jones. There's Sahara. I mean, Ricky Rodriguez. The list legit. Bam Miller. The list literally goes on and on and on. Holden Ross. All these guys have different ties to these different feds. So I'm able to come in as a character, and I'm your manager. I'm able to come in and plug your stuff and use my name to plug your Fed, even if it's with a fucking Twitter tag.
Or be appearing on the show, doing
Appearing
different
on the
events,
show, doing
bringing
the
your
segment.
wrestlers in, yeah.
Yes, infiltrating in. Like we're doing this. We're running an Angle and Action Wrestling like right now. They wanted to do this. They wanted to try like a Nexus style storyline. They're running CCP to come in and wreck shit. Okay, cool. How many weeks do we have?
Perfect. Yeah, build an angle, have fun, enjoy your time there, and get your name out, and help the Fed in the process.
And UGWC just had their big Outlast thing. I got a chance to go and compete there for the first time. I had a blast. working with Sebastian, Vaughn, Thad, and myself. We collabed, and I had the best time, given everything of my personal circumstances. Uh, I that took my mind off of a lot at the time, and I have nothing but love for those guys because they carried me at a real down time for me personally. And if I didn't have that to fall back on at that point in time, I don't know what may or may not have happened. So it was real personal, and these guys, we're building relationships together, and it's I don't know, it's touching. Like it means a lot, really means a lot.
The coolest thing about e-fetting is the friends you make. I mean, in reality, when it all boils down to people who enjoy your stuff, the people you enjoy their stuff, and you just get along with.
Yeah, no doubt. What I will say, the one thing about the Big C is uh, the, the recreational substances that you're allowed to partake in. For those who have seen me vaping on something most of the evening, I told them off air, and I hope you guys get a chuckle out of it too. I think the three of us are probably looked at as OGs, so I loaded up some OG Kush uh, for this evening smoke purposes.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
but it's just one of those situations like this, the group that we're building, and yeah, we're gonna get shit. We expect it. But
That, but not only that, are you building this group that's joining different feds, joining different events, getting the name out there, and really just promoting all these other feds in the process. Obviously, you guys are all tweeting about it. You're promoting these events. You're not only jumping on shows, but you're actively promoting these feds out to all of these other audiences, which is a wonderful thing. But on top of that, you're going to be running the Cannabis Cup. Let's talk about
sir,
that a little bit. The
uh,
Cannabis Cup is the upcoming tournament for CCPE. And what's the concept and what's the deal?
one of the questions that I always get on the fireside chat, I would as I end the show with "Ask Me Anything," and one of the questions that I'd always get asked is, "When are you going to run a show? When are you going to do a super show?" Terry Phoenix came on and did the cruise last year, and it was pretty big hit.
Very good.
Uh,
Yes.
Denzel had announced the Porter Invitational that was in
Yep.
February of this past year. So like I had secretly dropped a tweet out at some point and was like, "Hey, who would be interested in?" And I didn't get any response. So I did that intentionally. Next time I had got it as a question on the show, I showed the tweet and I was like, see, I put this out like 2 months ago and nobody responded. So I've already tried this, yada
Not
yada
going to
yada.
happen. Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'll just, it was around Christmas time at this point, and I was like, fuck it. In the beginning of January, I put a document out there and was like, yeah, if you want to, participate in I'm gonna put a show together, and the concept's to have a 32-man tournament. So sign up, and I went and lay down, and took a nap, like 2 hours, 3 hours. Think that I was gonna fill 32 names. I aimed high because I wanted to be able to say that I didn't fill it, and I tried. Uh, I woke up from a nap, and there's like 42 names on this list.
No.
Fuck.
So I'm roped into it at this point.
Yeah, now you're
Uh,
stuck.
right. I can't say I can't do it. Uh, but when in Rome.
Mission failed, but oh darn.
In the interim, though, like we've built a pretty solid card, and it'll be finalized and put out, I think, at the end of the month. But 32-man tournament, 30-person tournament. Excuse me, pronouns, pal. Uh, uh, 32-person tournament. It's got a wide range of Fed representation throughout. I couldn't be more happier about that. The biggest thing that I'm trying to do is pull as many Feds in as I can.
Yeah.
Whether it be with not my match graphics, but like a graphic from your Fed. I'll plug in between matches as segments with like web addresses and shit like that. Like your podcasting stuff, send me graphics or something like that. Like it'll air in between matches because there's I don't know, man, like 40 fucking matches across the weekend, 50 matches.
Unbelievable.
That's a lot. Uh, what's exciting about it to me, outside of the tournament itself, is to see all the representation from the Feds that are out there, but it all culminates on day 3, which I call the Day of Champions. Um, We'll start with like day 1, day 2, day 3. It's going to be a
Okay.
3-day event. It's held at the Velvet Rabbit, the venue at the Velvet Rabbit. Candace has built a custom-made 5,000 standing room only arena that we're gonna orchestrate. And because Paige is a businessman and he sees business opportunity, he broke it up into 6 sessions. So think like you know NCAA Sweet 16, Final Four, shit like that. You got 2 sessions. You got a morning session and an evening session.
All right.
2 sessions a day. A lot happening. Five Boroughs has got the main event of session 1. I think the main event of session 2 is Splat's Multiverse Championship. These are
So
all structural.
so these are non tournament matches, or they are
Yeah,
part of the tournament.
non-tournament matches
Okay.
are being
Okay.
represented as well. So each session has a main event essentially that's not a part of the tournament.
That's really
So
cool. Yeah.
some
So
form of fashion. So
someone's world champion can be defended at the event.
correct, and that's happening. Like there's some stuff happening. Day like I think day 2 is kind of semifinals, or not semifinals, is second round and up to semifinals, and there's a couple of matches that are taking place with Bam Miller and Larry Tact is one of the main events, and
Okay.
Team
Larry Tack
Centurion.
everywhere right now.
Yeah, Team Centurion versus Team Father Cheney inside of War Games match is going to be pretty interesting. Day 3 is the day, though. It's Day of Champions. I want as many feds to put a championship on the line as I can get.
You
And
still got room?
well, absolutely. If it's coming from the feds, yes. And here's what I'm looking for. So it's perfectly clear. Your champion. You pick your championship that you want to put on the line. You pick the challenger from your federation. It falls under your federation's role play rules, your structure. You judge it. You help me put a match together. I'll give you the space. Period. Like it's super simple. Well, it's as the Fed head, you dictate that pace. I don't have a dog in that race. I just want you on the show. I want to be able to plug you on the show, and there are championship matches that are at stake. The XWF Universal Championship is going to be on the line.
Oh shit.
There's let me pull the I'm unprepared. Let me pull the doc up.
No
Uh,
worries.
it's supposed to be plugging my shit now. Who's looking like the amateur now?
But no, let me say while you're
The
looking that
45
up,
minutes it took us to go on air. Hey.
while you're looking that up, I did do the fireside chat with Chronic Chris Page. Had a great time. Really enjoyed talking. I think you're a great Efed podcast host,
Oh.
and not that Brian.
Oh.
You're not getting replaced. Get off. Don't get excited. But I think that you're doing a great job over there. I love the podcast, and the
Yeah,
guests
appreciate it.
are interesting, and you have a great time.
Right,
Do you
I've
need
got this thing.
do you need a producer, and do you pay more? Well, do you pay in dollars rather than Mikey money?
Wait, you get paid in Mikey money, bro? I don't get that. I'm signed up on the wrong show then. I need
See?
to get paid something.
No, you're definitely not. Mikey money is like Luna, that crypto.
It's worth so much money. Hold on.
Well,
Mikey Money is a great scam, I swear. I mean, not a scam, not a scam. All right, back to the Cannabis Cup.
You've got Zion Wrestling scheduled for their viral championship. TPW was scheduled. They closed their doors. PWE was scheduled and they closed down. Five Boroughs is putting up their heavyweight championship. Pro Wrestling Valor is putting up their heavyweight championship. The XWF is putting up their Universal Championship. And of course, the main event of the show is actually going to be the finals of the Cannabis Cup itself. There's definitely room for feds to really step in if they choose to. You don't have to, but it's why not?
Why not?
Day 3s, or like I said, day 3 is the day. You've got the finals itself of the Cannabis Cup. James Raven and Peter Vaughn, which is Vaughn's dream match. Raven, I don't think they've ever hooked up one-on-one before. And then I'm going to work with Corey Black. As it stands now, Alias is defending the Universal Championship. So that's
walk with him.
Right. He's a good dude.
Who signed up for the actual tournament?
Let me run that list. 'Cause it's lengthy. we've got back up to the top of the page. You got Kimberly Payne versus Ashlyn Cassidy. This is the initials.
Okay.
Ricky Rodriguez is going to take on Wrath. Mark the Dragon Cross is taking on Holden Ross. Key Watson's taking on Dane Preston. Ag Baines taking on Austin Ramsey. Haley Halsey's taking on Paul Montori. Corey Smith, is taking on Michael Graves. Tina
Okay.
Submission Machina is taking on Crystal Wolf.
Hold on. Say that name again. Tina Submission.
Tina Submission Machina.
Love that.
She's currently, I think, the Anarchy champion in XWF. Apathy is scheduled for Bobby Bourbon.
Apathy.
Sorry,
rapper that Brian's rapped with.
Efed too, apparently.
Apparently.
Justin York is taking on Brittany Helms, Betsy Granger, and Ken Davidson.
Betsy Granger, I believe a top fiver on the Top 100 podcast. Countdown.
I shop at Granger sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going to botch this last name, I'm telling you now. Crystal, I don't know. I'm not even going to try it. Crystal such and such is taking on Sebastian Everett Bryce.
You got to try it.
But that's the key to our success here.
Is trying it.
Is butchering names.
Zadunich.
Oh, Zadunich. Zadunich.
Okay.
I like Zadunich.
Jesse Salco taking on Gerard Angelo. Excuse me. Jason Cash is going to be in there with Levi Rusev. Mark Flynn and Diamond Steel.
Got it.
And finally, the 16th match is Thunder Knuckles taking on Cholo.
It's going to be a hell of a tournament. It's going to be a great time. I believe the actual role plays are taking part in the XWF forum.
It's going to be on the XWF boards. Like we've got a Discord server up. Obviously, I think I've got
absolutely, yes, sir.
So definitely trying to. And if you're on this card, let me preface that. If you're on this card and you're not in that Discord server, please reach out to me. So that I try and keep all information in one place. But and two, it's always pinned to my Twitter. Like the doc is pinned to it. It's got all the information that's prudent. Your role play when you open, when it closes, for what particular week. I do want to say this that matches that are not within the tournament itself, those role play limits, I'm letting those handlers determine. So the only set role playing for sure for the cup is you've got 2 role plays at 4,000 words apiece. The role play for the line for role play 1 is June 3rd through the 17th, and then you come back June 24th through July 8th for role play 2.
Okay.
So you got a 2-week window. And then you're off for a week, and then you come back for a 2-week window for your second role play. So you got plenty of time.
And when's the event taking place?
22nd, 23rd, and 24th
of
July.
Of July. Okay.
So here's my thought process. I talk to Denzel Porter frequently. I love that guy. He's awesome.
He is.
We've become BFFs. So and by frequent I mean daily, really. When we discussed this event, like I told him, I look at what Tara did for her show, and then I look at what he did for his show, and I kind of see where things could be tweaked a little bit. It might be able to be improved a little bit. And I figured with a show of this magnitude that's going to have this many matches on it, giving myself that 2-week buffer after the deadline to really get the show together, to fine tune it, to make sure that it's as perfect as it can be. Because if anybody knows me from the WGWF days, if my name's attached to it, I got to go balls in. And I got to make sure that it's straight. I got to make sure that it looks good, and that the final product, whatever it may be, is very presentable, very professional. Everybody looks good. Which is very hard to do. I will say that with the cup matches themselves, because there is 16 of them, I've already started pre-writing them. Like I'm writing for opening round matches, 12 to 1,500 words per. Everybody looks good, so Even if you know show, I hope that you don't. But if you do, like you're not gonna be jobbed out. You're not gonna have a 2 second match. Like you're gonna look good. Everybody that's on the show is gonna look good because at the end of the day, it's not. It's about the people involved in it, but it's also about the feds that you represent. And just because like you may have an issue or you may not have an issue, I don't feel like you should be your fed should be penalized. So make everybody look good in the opening rounds and move forward through the tournament. I figure if I get that done, everything else will fall into place because that's the meat of it.
That is the meat of the matter. So check out the Cannabis Cup, the CCPE Cannabis Cup 2022. It's going to be a big event come July, and maybe we'll have to give some coverage to it, Brian.
Hey.
I'm all about
So,
it, man. There's no such thing as bad press.
100%. So
Don't. I mean, are you challenging us?
No,
we've been there. Don't worry. As a podcaster, you'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Then I will have officially arrived when that happens.
It'll be the wrong person once or twice.
One time.
Or 3 times.
All right. So, Travis, before we get out of here, we're going to hit all of these questions from the crowd. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay. In the Efed Podcast Discord, we got a couple questions here from Alias.
Elias.
Jesus Christ.
He wants to know, number one, F, Mary, Kill.
Wow.
James Raven. Ranma Satomi. Robert Maine. Handler or character, your choice.
See, you always try the name, even if you don't know what the hell the words mean.
Even if you don't know it, you always try it.
Okay, so here's the backstory on this in the XWF podcast. One of the things when we have one of the talents on, we would do a question and answer, and a running gag was "fuck, marry, kill." First page, Bobby Bourbon, Thunder Knuckles, and we'd make our guests choose who would obviously fuck, marry, kill. So Alias, fuck you for doing this, but and fuck you more for the options because, buddy. Well, we know who I'm killing in this situation is Robert May.
Okay, he's dead.
You know what? I gotta fuck Rama and I gotta marry James Raven. Take that.
Pretty easy choice for you, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number two from Alias. Tell me I'm pretty.
Not.
Not.
You're
Sorry,
not.
buddy.
Pseudonym. You're gorgeous.
Pseudonym. Alias, not so much.
You're pretty, baby. You're pretty.
Alias is
Alex Smiley wants to know, if you could pick any Americana moment, what would it be and why?
As far as like, are we talking Efed? Are we talking like real life? Or, like real feds?
That's the question, bro. You answer how you want.
I mean, when I think if we're talking
American Mania moment.
Oh, hey, they just do a throwback to Terry Borden.
Okay.
Who's my that's my Hulk Hogan parody character. So America Mania, it runs wild on everybody at some point in time or another. So my favorite America Mania moment would have to be, and this is just so outlandish. Centurion's involved in this because he created a parody Ric Flair character that he called Ric Flair. And in the WGWF, we ran what was supposed to be a one-off storyline with Terry Borden and Ric Flair. It turned into like a big comedy angle that went like 4 months, and we finally blew it off. And so my favorite America Mania moment was recreating Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan with Centurion handling the Ric Flair character.
That's amazing. MDG wants to know, modern day gladiator. Shout out to Warren.
Warren.
So you and Mikey in a sword fight. Who's losing their head? Blatant Highlander reference. Me and you, bro. Who's losing our head?
Only be
How tall are you?
Hold on. Let me roll up these sleeves so that we're both sleeveless. Then we'll talk.
How tall are you?
Sun's out, tattoos out.
I got no tan, but I got the tan of Seamus, but I got the guns.
I don't have nothing. No.
Moon's out, tattoos out.
Moon's out, tattoos out. Who's ready?
I just have like 2. That's it.
All right.
You got the ink work.
So
No,
sword fight. I'm 5'11". Who's winning?
Well, I don't know, man, because I'm 6 foot. That's not a whole lot. All right, let me ask you this: Are we post or pre chemo or post?
When you pull that card, I mean,
we gotta go pre. I mean,
I don't know, man. I'm not handy with the sword, and I probably would lose my head in that battle.
I'll be honest. I've never touched a sword in my life. So
your head's gone.
First of all, it's not made for TV because we're gonna be awkward as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
This has become instead of GOT Game of Thrones, TEFP : Game of Thrones.
No, the head's going. Your head's gonna go away.
It's the game of guns. I'm ready.
Hey, you know, worst case, I got the fucking crows.
All right.
You go.
All right, bro. So I think your head's going. So anyway, moving on.
I mean, this should come down to a role play. Isn't there some big tournament coming up?
Only if we role play only if we have a sword fight match. What that means, I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
I mean, I think a sword fight match means a sword fight.
It's either with swords or in the urinal because I used to play sword fight all the time.
I'm not stepping in the urinal. I'm hoping it's with blades.
I was saying, one is much more deadly than the other.
All right, moving forward. Let's find out what we got on the old Twitter machine here.
Twitter, the old garbage can. If you're on Twitter and you love Twitter, I hate you.
Too many drinks for you to joke about that. All right. Here we go, Travis. What we got is that Azzy Vebens up first. Azreen Vebens wants to know, as an Efed podcast guest alumni, I have 4 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, hold up. That's what you need to be to ask mad questions as an alumni? We need to make that canon. We got some people who've not been alumni who've asked like 8 questions.
We gotta knock them off. So, who is Chris Page's dream dance list and dream opponents?
This is gonna sound like a big time answer, and I'm not trying to, but I've legitimately worked with just about everybody. I believe.
Oh.
I mean, I saw you pointing at yourself, brother. Defiance is not. I've not made a Defiance appearance yet.
I'm not in Defiance anymore.
You're not, but I know you're at Prime.
Me either.
Oh.
Know how I know that? I talked to them the other day. Know where to find you if I need to.
Damn it.
But I'm just saying, like, I've worked with. I think I've worked with a lot of good people throughout my entire career, and anybody that I've wanted to work with, I have. And I think it's to a point now where if you want to work with me, just come and ask. And
Come at me, bro.
Well, that's
usually
why, that's why I've not worked with Mike. You said you work with good people.
Wow.
Says the guy I retired. All right, sit down.
Hey, rumor has it there's a 499 day world title run.
This fucking guy. Holy shit, does his homework. This fucking guy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it doesn't sound like he's
499, not 500.
It's true, but 499 is a pretty round number.
This fucking guy. I was not ready for that.
Hey, zeros are more round than nines.
All right. How often do you fly Kayfabe Airlines?
Paige always flies private.
Oh.
He's got his own jets, yeah, and well, actually, Kayfabe has provided, and we'll get to that. Has provided Candace with the Velvet Rabbit with a plane, so Paige and Candace are linked together, and so we may fly on the Velvet Rabbit plane every now and then, but For the most part, he flies private because with all the appearances, he's got to go.
Of
He's
course.
on the road. He stays busy and stays rolling.
Oh,
I fly private everywhere I go except, to Ohio because no private planes will fly
shut up, Brian. What's your favorite stoner comedy?
Oh Jesus, there's so many. I mean, I find going old school, man. Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused is terrific.
It's the one that started it for me.
Half Baked is better, but Dazed and Confused is
I
terrific.
mean, well, Dazed and Confused started it. Half Baked is obviously in the conversation, but if I'd go back to the one that like really started, I fell in love with Dazed and Confused, and
Hey,
there. And to be
I
fair,
just toast to a fellow man of style
there we
and
go.
and
grace.
to be fair, Dazed and Confused actually did decent in the box office as to where Half Baked almost made it to where you never heard of Dave Chappelle ever.
Bro, I was like 13
Well,
when half.
for those of us who weren't children, yeah, the Half Baked tanked in the box office, killed Dave Chappelle and his writer buddy Neil Brennan's career, and yeah, they almost did not make it back from it.
And it's turned into a cult classic since.
DVD.
That's how I found it. All
Yeah.
right. So, which move do you consider to be a peak high spot?
I mean, if it's for my character, I mean, his got three.
What are the moves of Chronic Chris Page?
His high spots are he's 52 years old, but every once in a while he'll pull out a springboard moonsault
Okay,
if it requires.
naturally.
I will come off the top rope with a diving headbutt. But that's about it as far as aerial is concerned.
Brian, mute your mic.
Spine buster, just effect, and yeah, that's kind of it. Like I'm not a high spot wrestler. He isn't anyway. He's more ground and pound, technical. But as he's gotten older, he's having you got to brawl.
Yeah,
He's not a spring chicken.
he can't do the moonsaults as often.
I know. No, and sometimes when I write page, and I do a lot of pages match writing. When I do write page, like I may writing botching the moonsault. I may writing botching something because again, he's old. He's not going to be perfect.
I pitched that to a Fed recently where I was going to botch moves, and like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, who cares? It happens.
When I ask permission, I just put it in there, and usually it's not the respective Fed heads or what have you kind of trust the work, so it'll just make air, and then when I see it, I giggle. Look at me, I just stuff a little bit there.
At Burrows 5 Burrows Wrestling wants to know, I appreciate you doing a lot of things lately, especially coming into 5BW. I know I asked this on the fireside chat when I was on it, but what advice would you give to anyone starting out in Efeding?
Don't take it too seriously.
Amen.
Take it too seriously. I'll say this. I'll equate it to, people travel around from Fed to Fed because anytime you go to a new Fed, it's a whole different role play structure, a whole different set of judging, a whole different, game altogether because nobody looks at everything the same way. Again, role playing subjective.
Yeah.
It's objective. So you have to find that happy medium. Don't get frustrated. Like it's easy to say, "Hey, kid, chill out, relax, and take it one step at a time." But when you put yourself back in that situation, like I burned my bridges, right? Like I had my situations where I overstepped, and it's possible. Just be careful and don't take it too seriously. And if you have questions, ask. And then the biggest thing too, also know that you're not going to win every match that you're involved in. It's not going to happen.
No, ever. So, is there anyone in 5BW you want to face off with?
Anybody?
Anybody and everybody. Bring it on. The man is ready. He's not backing down.
I mean, reality is, I've just, in character storyline wise, I'm doing a lot of stuff with Matt Knox right now, and and we've kind of been building this thing on Twitter for months, really. And it's kind of culminating on the 22nd, where we're going to meet in Five Boroughs. Is the first location. It'll be our first encounter. This is my first dabbling with Five Boroughs. But I mean, obviously, I know Megan. I've interviewed her several times, both in character and out of character, and um, it's gonna be interesting. I know that there's a couple people there that I was gonna be like, hey, I was gonna jump on like Mark Cross, but I'm hooking up with him at El Diablo's little super show, the Backyard 2.
Backyard Orama or something.
Yeah, Backyard Aroma, Back to the Yard 2. Uh, so I'm getting to work with Mark Cross there, who's another guy that's it's been on the list for me to work with, and now the opportunity's kind of presented itself. It's what I kind of love about in my position at this point. Like I get to have these matches. So you say dream, go back to the dream match question. If I could think of a dream match, like they're either scheduled or they're in the processes of being scheduled, they're already in the works and you don't know it. So it's hard to like pinpoint.
You're just knocking things off the bucket list at this point.
No doubt.
And why not?
Yeah. What else can I do right now?
At Lexi Gold 13 wants to know. Shout out to Lexi, always in the Twitch chat. Lexi wants to know what's some good tips or advice you'd give for someone starting an Efed podcast for the first time.
Ask Mikey Unlikely first.
Stop.
No, actually, you've got to ask Efed Power Hour, and then Power Hour has to ask me, and then I have to ask Mikey. So
you got to work up the chain.
There's now a chain of command that we must follow. Mikey's the podfather. You don't get to speak to Mikey directly anymore. And actually, I don't get to speak to Mikey. I got to speak to Mr. Producer first, and producer speaks to Mikey. Like we don't have access to him. This is it. Just when he's on the air.
Unbelievable. That's a great bit.
I'm just saying.
I appreciate that very much.
There's a cigar. There you go.
Pinky up. All right. Who are some of the people you'd love to face off against in any Fed out there? You're already working on them. You just mentioned in the previous question.
I'm really looking forward to working with Corey Black. We've been kind of doing something in action that's going to lead to the Cannabis Cup. I'm looking forward to working with Mark Cross. I'm looking forward to this thing with Matt Knox that we've been talking about doing. Like, I'm open, but understand that as Chris Page, like I'm winding down. Like, I may do this about another year, and I'm I'm gonna be done. So it's it's whatever. I'm open, but let's make it make sense and let's talk about it and figure it out. It's easy to do. Just I really am really interested to see what the reaction is going to be to some of the stuff that's about to take place, because I feel like it could be pretty big, and the individuals and that are involved in it feel like it could be pretty big, and we'll see. We'll see.
I love it. Intrigue. Get excited.
If there's somebody that's out there that wants to do something, they just let me know. Hey, if I'm Joe Schmo hits me up from fuck Fed that nobody's ever heard of that just pops up tomorrow and says, "Hey, I want to come in and do something with you." Okay, when and where, and I'll come. I'll usually show up.
Lexi Gold says she wants to face Page.
There you have it.
And where?
These are the Lexi Gold questions, so that makes sense. We'll make it happen, Lexi. Just get in touch with
reach out. We'll make something happen.
Anybody. They'll know somebody who knows somebody. All right, if you could start up a Fed again, what would you do differently than the first time than now? Well, let's say even the second time to now.
So I said earlier, never say never. Thinking. I've had the conversations with a couple of people. I'm not gonna name names, but Cannabis Cup is maybe a trial for something. Maybe not.
All right.
I don't want to say yes. I don't want to say no. I'm dealing with some things, and I need to get this stuff taken care of before I can fully blown commit. Like I don't know what my next week is going to look like right now. It's
I see you.
life's a bitch at this
Yeah,
point.
it's very fair.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Cat C. Jones, number one, wants to know how in the hell do you keep up with all you do? Most importantly, how are you feeling?
I keep up with everything because it's easy. Like I work with everybody that's like within CCPE. It's super simple because we're kind of all in one place and one room, and I just say, "Hey, who's booked where this week?" And then the schedule the tweets out. That stuff's done in a day, and I don't have to touch it for a week. Um, That's easy stuff. The podcasting stuff is a little different. Like, we've got the fireside chat, which has led to Down the Rabbit Hole, which is an in character podcast. And that's also led to the Smoke Sessions podcast, which is an in character podcast. So, like, there's several things that are happening on multiple fronts to try and get different content out there. Um, some people enjoy it, some people don't. I don't. I try to please everybody with what I'm doing, but you're gonna have the detractors. It's easy to keep up with because I don't have a whole lot of time. I mean, like I don't have I'm not doing a whole lot with my free time. I'm obviously going through some stuff. Some days I'm able to get up and go to work. Some days I'm not. Um, it comes and it goes. I'm not gonna ask for sympathy or ask for a pity party or anything of that nature. Just know that I'm there. I'm doing the best I can with what I got. I've got a really good support system around me. My doctors are 99.9% that this thing's going to get taken care of, probably pretty quickly within the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, probably. I'm doing good. This is just one step of a two-step process. I've got a liver issue that's got to get dealt with next, but they're baby stepping it.
You mentioned what's going on with you? Do you want to say what that is?
I've got lung cancer and I've got liver disease. Kind of a double whammy.
And but your doctors are optimistic.
Oh, very much so. The cancer side, very, very much so. It's not. They're 100%, 99.9% sure that this will be taken care of. That we've caught it at a very early stage. Coincidentally, I went to the hospital for something very unrelated. They happened to run some scans. When they ran the scans, they found both at the same time.
Wow.
Uh, and
Oh,
it was a lot to deal with, and it was a lot to digest. And I didn't really talk about it for probably 3 or 4 weeks. Like I just digest. A couple of people knew, and those who knew, and those who didn't. This is the last thing I want is anybody to fucking throw me a sympathy party. That's not what it's
right.
all about. I'm in very good spirits. I stay in good spirits. Uh, I started to lose hair, but I shaved it down mostly, but it's not terrible yet. I have a feeling I'll be bald shortly, but it is what it is. I'll get through it.
And honestly, not to discount anything that's been said prior, that's much more compelling story than any of this fake wrestling we talk about. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Real life.
That's the real life big time story is that
for
you're
sure.
dealing with double chronic issues and thankfully, through treatment and things are looking on the up and up. But in the meantime, when someone who we play with, someone who we get down with in e-wrestling is going through issues, it's great to see the community come together, and it seems like people are coming together for you. And obviously, our best thoughts and vibes are with you as well as you go
No
through
doubt.
this.
I tell everybody every day I would take all the positive vibes that you want to send me. I'll take
Yeah,
them.
100%.
But I'm not the guy that's gonna run out and tell you, oh, this came back on my scans or this come back. You know what I mean? I'm not that
Yep.
guy. I went to chemo today. Like, I mean, there are those who know that know. And I will say this, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I say Denzel's become one of my very best friends. Um, this guy, since all this has started, I'd say for the last 2 weeks, every day, Monday through Friday, between 9:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning. Either this guy rings, that's him, or I'm on the phone calling him. And he talks to me every day. Every day. Talk Efed. We talk life every day. I can't ask for anything better than that. That's if I don't know if that's not love, I don't know what is. It keeps my mind off of it, so I don't have to think about it. Because I do work. I do try to get up and go to work every day. I have a job where my boss knows what's up, and he's very understanding of what's going on. So I'm able to go and do what I can do, and then I come home. Uh, so it's to have that, and I'm usually driving. That's part of what I do. So I'm able to talk. And he's solid. He's rock solid. I'd do anything for that guy now.
I mean, I feel like it's a testament to uh, the hobby. It's a testament to what Mikey started with this podcast. It's a testament to what you started with your podcast. It's end all be all. You boil all this shit down. Take out all the politics. Take out all the Twitter. This hobby boils down to a communal effort, one way or another.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I hate that all this shit happened, but I've always said, and I find this hilarious to me personally because I've always said that you never put in positions that you can't handle. And one thing people will say is how positive my attitude is, and I will say this very candidly. And usually I say this anytime somebody asks me, "Hey, how you doing?" I always say somebody's doing worse.
Fair.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like there's somebody out there's doing worse.
For sure.
Um, it's behooved me to allow negative to creep in. And again, this is another outlet for that. It allows me to connect to other people. It's affected it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Um, it's affected what I can do, what I can write, how long I can sit here. How much I can kind of. It's different. It's a different element, but
Yeah.
it's not forever. It's temporary. It's a temporary situation.
Well, we're glad to hear you're upbeat. We're glad to hear the prognosis is upbeat, and we hope that we can reconvene and get a positive update here soon.
Oh, no doubt, man.
100%.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, XWF 1999 wants to know,
Oh.
why do you always lark in the wrong spot?
See, I feel like this is a trick question because I think they know that I have no idea what lark means.
I know what LARPing is, but I don't know what larking is.
I have no idea what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah. I know LARPing. I know lurking. I'm not
I don't
Larking.
know. I don't know.
sure. Larking.
I have no idea. So verification whenever, then we'll circle around to that one. I don't know.
All right.
If I don't know what the acronym stands for, I don't know how I'm going to answer the question.
Maybe the question was, hey, why you trying to shut us down for so many years?
Oh, we answered that one.
Boom. There we go. Next question.
All right. Next question is from @malignant_red. What is it about Velvet Rabbit NYC that led you there? What made you want to host an event there and become part of the storyline and make it part of your storyline?
This is the magic of e-fedding right here. So Candace is very instrumental in my story right now. Saw the Velvet Rabbit go up, and saw that there was some handlers that were interacting there. A character, I was like, this is different. I'm just watching, and I'm seeing the tags on on Twitter and the different things that are being said, and I'm watching Candace how she's handling it in character on Twitter. And it all was like it's very organic because Paige just ended in XDub and I went on to fight for season 2 and a piece of season 3. Uh, part of the storyline was I had to move to New York. Well, I had observed Candace and I just tagged her in a tweet. I was like, "Hey, I'm moving to New York. I know you don't know me, but can we meet for a second?" I had made trips to her establishment, like in character, a couple of times, and tagged her in some stuff, and got a little bit of attention, but not a whole lot, but enough to like kind of build a presence. And we still hadn't talked much at this point. But she agreed to meet in character was when we started talking in DMs, and I just kind of went to her and was like, "I want to uh, I'm setting up CCPE. You're a successful businesswoman in New York. You've opened up this club that's just started to boom. So knowing what it takes to open a business in New York and the red tape that you have to cut through, it would make sense for me to come to you in character and ask you to give me some help. Paige has never done this before. That's how I started. Other people made more out of it, and we just started playing into it. And alas, we've now become like this kind of couple. Uh, it never started that way, but it started in fucking October of last year. But I saw what she was doing with Rabbit and out of character and how she was building it in character and the work that she put into it. It was almost like it's a character in its own right. Um, Why wouldn't you want to get
It,
involved in that?
it's like an Efed Central almost.
Right. So in character, Candace set Paige up with, Annika, who got him his penthouse, which was located conveniently near the Rabbit. And, he and Candace were developing this business relationship and knew that the Cannabis Cup had been announced in January. Um, as out of character between November, December, and January, the Velvet Rabbit started like really blowing the fuck up. And I just asked her, "What would you think about doing a show there?" Cannabis Cup. She was like, "Well, I don't know." Well, and I pitched the idea. I was like, "If I put this thing out there, because I had put it out there, I was getting ready to. So I put this thing out there, and people bite. Do you want to incorporate the Velvet Rabbit?" And she jumped on it. She said, "Yeah, sure." Business relationship, in character, business relationship. Now we announce this business relationship because now I've got a venue to host this event at. So it's an in character thing at this point. It's been announced. You've got the tournament people. I've got Candace. I've got the Velvet Rabbit. Um, it all just organically flew from there. That led to like getting the Kayfabe Airlines involved. That led to getting the This Is Awesome promotions involved. Like that, just that connection to the Rabbit and that side of the game to the Rabbit opened up the doors for the other sponsors to come in and work the avenue. Um, it just seemed like a no brainer, and it just has organically kind of just grown into this bigger deal, and I have more fun with that than I do role playing sometimes.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time for the questions, but we appreciate Travis for coming on the show and doing all of this stuff. Travis, we're going to get to some of these other questions mano later in the week, and maybe we'll get a special feature up online. But in the meantime, appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate you doing the Efed podcast. Where can people find your not only character, but where can they find your podcast?
The podcast you can get me. We're on the XWF YouTube site or media site. That's all linked on my Twitter. You can find it at Fireside page or just look up CCP podcast, and you can get me at Chronic CP. I mean, I'm all over the place, bro. I'm
All
everywhere.
over.
It's hard to. I could list off 10 feds right now that I've probably got something working in or just finished something up in. So I'm kind of everywhere. I'm plugging everything as I go.
But on Twitter, you can find him at Chronic CP and at Fireside Page. That's where you'll find most of the information you need to follow and get in tune with his products, not products, his podcast and the stuff he's got going on with Chris Page and the CCPE. Yeah, I'm a couple double IPAs deep, and by couple I mean more than a couple.
No,
So
you're all right. I appreciate it, guys.
yeah, this has been a great time. I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, and between both of our podcasts, I appreciate you kind of branching out the EFED community just as we are trying to do as well. I mean, it's cool seeing other people pick up the torch and run.
It's fantastic. I mean, my only question is, why have I not been asked to guest? I mean,
I have an open door policy, Brian. You tell me when and where you want to do it, brother. We'll make it happen.
So you call my bluff? I don't want to do it.
I'm just saying.
Not because it's your podcast, because Brian doesn't want to do anything. It's tough getting him on here.
I just really don't like talking about Efeds anymore.
Okay, no worries.
So,
Well,
hey,
the door's open. We can talk about music.
20
Oh,
hey, that we can do.
Just saying. Fireside chat's not just about Efeds, bro. It can be whatever you want it to be about. It's your 60 minutes. Let's go.
Ooh, yeah.
this guy does too much research. This is odd.
60,
Yes, sir.
60 minutes is just it's a bit much.
Okay. Yeah,
No,
30, whatever.
No, I'm fucking around now. Yeah, I mean,
10, 15, don't care.
I was joking around now for sure. I'd be glad to do it if y'all ever need a guest.
Man, appreciate it. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for the EFED podcast. For Brian, I'm Mikey. This has been the EFED podcast, where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real. Hey, boss, before we let you go,